The origin of death. Regarding the fundamental questions of the origin of death, there are no records, clues, causes, or reasons throughout all of human history. What we know about death is that we're destined to die eventually. In regard to human life, we're simply born into the world and turn to dust in the end, without understanding the fundamental reason from a human's point of view. However, in my understanding, we can find an explanation for the cause of death in only one book, which could be considered a gift from God. Throughout human history, only the Holy Bible has provided an answer, a clue, a reason, and a record. Therefore, I wish to discuss the origin of death, using the biblical record. I intend to examine this record in the Bible, not from a religious perspective, but from philosophical and historical standpoints, as it may address a fundamental human query. The cause of death is found solely in the Bible, and it presents a narrative that aligns with our rational thought. The Bible is the unique text that explains the origin of death in a fundamental, comprehensive, and detailed manner. In the Bible, the book of Genesis, specifically chapter 3, explains how the origin of death entered the world. The narrative unfolds as follows. In the beginning of creation, God's blessings were bestowed abundantly following the creation of the Garden of Eden. The term Eden signifies delight. God crafted the entire world and designed a special haven of joy, the Garden of Eden, for humankind. The benefits were immense for the first humans, Adam and Eve. God had prepared everything in abundance for Adam, including all kinds of food, with one exception. Genesis chapter 2 verses 16 to 17 states, "And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die." In human history, the term death first appears in this book, in the recorded proclamation, "Thou shalt surely die." In the Bible, Adam failed to obey the commandment issued by God in the Garden of Eden. Following this transgression of God's command, both he and his wife were punished. The narrative in the Bible recounts God's punishment for mankind. The punishment is detailed in Genesis chapter 3, verse 19, which reads, "In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return." The concept and execution of death entered the world for the first time, immediately after they committed sins against God. This act ushered the fear of death into our tangible and practical lives. The terror of the fear of death has been ingrained in our daily existence ever since. Interestingly, following God's death sentence, Adam and Eve did not perish immediately. Instead, humankind became destined to die after a certain period, despite death being decreed for all descendants of Adam and Eve. We don't understand why God delayed the execution of death for humankind for such a prolonged duration. However, I believe there is one clue that may elucidate the reason behind this postponement: God's salvific plan for mankind. God promised salvation and deliverance shortly after the transgression. It appears that God aimed to redeem mankind from sin and death. The Bible records this in Genesis chapter 3 verse 15, which says, "And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." God devised a plan to restore us through your offspring, and through him, all of mankind could be redeemed from sin and death at the moment of the incident. I believe this is the reason why mankind has needed to be preserved even after the death sentence was given. In any case, this statement regarding the death sentence seems to shed light on our understanding of life, including death. However, I believe that we still don't fully comprehend the actual meaning of death. Now, we are destined to die once right after we're born into the world. Is this truth serious to you, or is it natural to accept? Most of humankind not only doesn't know why we're destined to die but also doesn't understand why we came into this world. However, we often pretend to understand everything about life. I think that Socrates, as a great philosopher, was a man who came close to understanding the limitations of human knowledge concerning existence. Yet, he couldn't grasp the meaning of death at all. Even so, we, as ordinary individuals, know little about the meaning of life beneath the surface. Many questions regarding the fundamental aspects of life leave us bewildered in the real world. Most of the time, searching for the fundamental meaning of my life feels like a fish out of water. I think that all we can perceive might be like an illusion, non-existent, or in a maze that we can't escape from except through the exit of death. The only reason we're living is that we were born and have life on earth. This is the inevitable fact, reality, and fate given to mankind throughout human history. Since I started contemplating the concept of death, the Bible has been the only text that has clearly revealed its meaning to me. The fundamental idea of death is that, just as life comes from dust, we are all returning to dust according to God's sentence of punishment. Genesis chapter 3 verse 19 states, "By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are and to dust you will return." As the Bible shows us, we are no more than dirt. Therefore, in our actual lives, boasting about whatever we have or what we have achieved seems rather childish in my view.